Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are in time and space, welcome to Just the Word TV, and thank you for joining our daily morning devotion. This channel is built on one mission to help you hear what God actually said, not tradition, and just the word. So, we've been looking at the book of Proverbs so far, and when we look at the book of Proverbs, it's easy to make a mistake. It's easy to think that this book is just a random collection of good advice or a list of catchy sayings to memorize. But when we look closer, we see that Proverbs is actually a structured system. It's showing us how wisdom is supposed to shape a person's daily life. In the first two chapters, we learn the value of wisdom, why we need it, and how to search for it. Now, in Proverbs chapter 3, specifically from verses 1 to 12, Solomon shifts the focus. He stops talking about finding wisdom and starts teaching us how wisdom works when it moves inside of you. He's teaching us what happens when wisdom stops being something you know in your head and becomes the driving force of your heart. This section continues the theme we've already seen. We have learned that wisdom lives inside of you, protecting your life and keeping you away from danger. We have learned that wisdom builds character. Now, Solomon breaks this down into practical areas of life. He shows us that real wisdom affects everything: your character, your trust, your health, your money, and even how you handle being corrected. So, I'm gonna just go through the 12 verses really quickly, and just try to just extract some of the principles that's being exposed and being told to us through them. So, beginning from verses 1 and 2. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. When Solomon says, let thine heart keep my commandments, he is talking about something deeper than memorization. In the Bible, the heart isn't just about emotions, it is the center of who you are. It is where you make decisions. Solomon is saying that God's teachings shouldn't just sit in your memory, they should just sit in your decision-making center. He tells us that doing this adds a length of days and peace. This might sound like a magic promise, but it's actually a logical result of living wisely. We need to understand why wisdom lengthens life. Think about how the wicked live. Without wisdom, people live dangerous, reckless lives. They make impulsive decisions based on anger, greed, or pride. They take unnecessary risks. They burn bridges with people. That kind of lifestyle creates stress, invites violence, and leads to early destruction. On the other hand, when your heart keeps the commandments, you are naturally steered away from these dangers. Wisdom leads to safer choices. It leads to emotional stability. It keeps you out of situations that tend to shorten a person's life. When you have God's truth internalized, you remain steady when everyone else is panicking. That inner stability reduces stress and protects your life. Next, Solomon moves from the quality of our character and how we treat moves to the quality of our character and how we treat others. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them down upon the table of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. So Solomon highlights two specific virtues here: mercy and truth. Mercy in this context translates to the Hebrew word hesed. It means loyalty, steadfast love, and compassion. It is the kind of character that stays committed even when things get difficult. Truth, or emet, means honesty, reliability, and consistency. It means you are a person of your word. Solomon tells us to bind them about thy neck. He wants these qualities to be part of your uniform. He wants them to be so much a part of you that when people see you, they immediately see mercy and truth. And if you do this, the text says you will find favor in the sight of God and man. This is a verse that is often misunderstood. And when I first read it, I thought I misunderstood it myself. The Bible is not telling us to be people pleasers. It's not telling us to chase after human approval or to do whatever makes people like us. Instead, Solomon is explaining that favor with people is a natural result of consistent integrity. This is something that I needed to hear. I still struggle with the people pleasing thing as well. So this is something that I need to hear, that I don't need to compromise myself. I don't need to put myself in uncompromising situations to gain favor with men. If I just focus on the character of God and allow that to radiate from me, all favor will be given unto me. That is needed to be given to me, right? And just going on to that, at first it seemed like, well, how is that even true? Because I'm trying my best to follow the things of God, and all I'm getting is just absolute hatred at this point in time, if you want to call it that. All I'm getting is absolute hatred. And what I had to sit down and realize is that the character of God, right? The one thing that you have to understand what it gives you this sort of consistency, a consistency and integrity, meaning that people can trust you. What's dangerous about about a wicked person, about a simple person, about someone who is not on that path of righteousness, is the fact that they're very unpredictable. Meaning that you can't they don't often know what they want to do. You can't trust them in that sense, that they have no integrity. They're always moving the way the wind is moving, basically. Either they're moving the way the wind is moving, or they're trying to put some type of evilness into the wind itself, right? And what that does for people, and what that does for people who are looking at this particular people, it does give them some type of excitement, yes, but the underlying trust for that person, it's diminished just due to the fact that you don't know what they're going to do next. You don't know how they're going to feel. You don't know if the emotion that's going to come within them next is going to cause an uproar, is going to cause a violent action, right? There's too much unpredictability. But with the character of God, right? People can rest assured that they can trust in the consistency of your integrity, right? And that's what I had to understand, that people trust, even though I might be feeling hatred at this particular time. One thing you can consistently understand is you understand my stance and where I stand with particular things. And with simple people, with the wicked people, you have no idea where their stance is. So I had to think and really understand, although you might be feeling some type of hatred from people, from the outside world or whatever it might be, at least people know where you stand. People don't have to guess and have to figure out and have to wonder where your integrity is. People know where you stand and what you stand for. So that is what God's character is doing for us. So if you're reading that and you kind of got confused, like, so we're supposed to find favor with man? No. What we're supposed to do is take that character of God and have people understand that with the character of God comes integrity. With the character of God comes consistency. And with the character of God comes trustworthiness and loyalty, so that you don't have to worry about if this person who's carrying God's character, you don't have to worry about if you can trust them to do this, that, and the third. Due to the fact of their character and the person that they represent, they cannot afford to have the character of God be represented badly. You know what I mean? But with the wicked, with the simple, they don't have anyone to represent. They're not really representing anyone. They're just going off of their emotion after passing emotion after passing emotion. So I want you to think about the consistent integrity that you've seen in the Bible. I want you to think about Joseph, or I want you to think about Daniel. They didn't compromise their beliefs to make people happy. They stood firm in their faith. But because they were honest, reliable, and excellent in what they did, even pagan kings trusted them. They had favor because they had character. Even Jesus, as a young man, is described in Luke chapter 2, verse 52, as growing in favor with God and man. The lesson here is simple. Never compromise the truth to gain favor. If you live with mercy and truth, people will eventually trust you because they know you are solid. That's the main goal here. God's character is just to make you a solid person, a solid character, give you a solid character that people can rely on. That's the reflection that people are that God wants you to show. He wants the character of God to show that it is something that is solid. It is something that does not change. It is eternal. So that no matter what is going on, you don't have to worry about if my emotion is going to cause me to act out of character. You don't have to worry about if my current emotion, if I'm feeling angry, right? There's a lot of times I go to church absolutely filled with anger, right? Absolutely filled with anger. And I allow the presence of God to take that away from me and to replace it with joy and replace it with something else. But never do I allow that anger to be the influence of any of my actions, right? Never do I allow any type of sadness to be the influence of any of my actions. Will I start singing sad? Yeah, but by the end of the service, I'm upbeat, I am ready to go, I'm doing what it is I need to do, I'm feeling the presence of God within me. So all of that to say, you're not here to gain favor with man. That is not the main point. But when you have shown your loyalty with God, when you have shown your commitment to God, people can't help but to see that in you. People can't help but to trust you. Next, looking at verses 5 and 6, it's very famous verses that we've all heard in Proverbs. So, but let's look at them in the context of proper God type of decision making. So Proverbs 3, chapter 5 and 6, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Solomon is drawing a sharp contrast here between how a foolish person navigates life and how a wise person navigates life. The simple person trusts whatever they see. The wicked person trusts in their own schemes and ability, but the wise person trusts in God. The phrase lean not onto thy own understanding is a physical image. Imagine leaning your full body against the weight of a wall. You only do that if you trust the wall will hold you up. Solomon is saying, do not put your full weight on your own logic. This doesn't mean we stop thinking. It means we recognize that our thinking is limited. Our five senses cannot see the future. Our logic is often clouded by our emotions or our limited information. If you make life choices based only on what you can see or feel, you are leaning on a broken support. So that's basically, leading life with a simple mindset. You see things, you react, your emotion you start to lean on your own emotion, you're leaning on your own understanding. Instead, we are told to acknowledge him. This means bringing God into every decision. It means before you make a move in your business, your relationships, or your daily habits, you consult God's way. Basically, put the decision through the system that God is creating here through Proverbs. Put it through the system. Check it out. Make sure that it is, it is sound, it is checked, it is right. It's okay if there's a little contradiction to the actual decision. Let me inform you guys on like good group dynamics. In a group, right? Depending on whatever it is, you don't want to create an echo chamber, right? An echo chamber is when the leader of the group is able to say an idea and everyone else in the group is basically echoing that same idea, just basically just piggybacking off of it, just, not really putting any thought into it. But when you have someone who is basically the role of a contradictor, right? Their role is to contradict the decision. No matter how sound the decision is supposed to be, they're supposed to contradict that decision. And what that does is, right, it opens up a new avenue of thinking, opens up a new avenue of perspective. Actually, it introduces perspective into the decision itself, right? And this is what the system of God is trying to do. This what we're learning through Proverbs, that we're able to kind of just check the decision through God's way so that but by the time we're ready to make that decision, we have vetted it. We have made sure that it's reliable. We have made sure that it passes the test that God wants us to put it through in terms of does this further God's will in that particular sense. If it doesn't, don't make the decision. But if it does, we have more influence, we have more confidence in making that decision in the first place. So moving on. The results of all of this, right? Is that he shall direct thy paths. This means God guides your judgment. He influences your habits. He helps you make decisions that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. When you stop trusting your own limited view and start trusting God's unlimited view, your direction in life becomes straight and clear. Next, moving on to verses 7 and 8, Solomon warns us about the biggest enemy of wisdom, which is pride. So be not wise in thy own eyes, fear the Lord, and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. So the warning is clear. Be not wise in thy own eyes. This is the definition of arrogance. It is the attitude that says, I don't need instruction. I know what I'm doing. Pride is what pulls people out of wisdom and leads them into destruction. When you think you know everything, you stop listening. And when you stop listening, you are in danger. The solution to pride is to fear the Lord. As we have learned before, the fear of the Lord is a posture of humility and respect. It keeps you aligned with God. Solomon adds that we must depart from evil. This implies an active rejection of foolish paths. It means you don't flirt with danger, you walk away from it entirely. Interestingly, Solomon connects this spiritual humility to physical health. He says it will be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. While this is poetic language, it points to a real truth. Living a life of pride and evil is exhausting. It carries the weight of guilt, the stress of covering up lies, and the anxiety of maintaining an image. Humility, however, brings inner stability. It brings emotional peace and clarity of mind. When you aren't fighting to prove you are the smartest person in the room, you can actually rest. Next, moving on to verses 9 and 10, wisdom moves into our wallets. It addresses how we handle our resources. 9 and 10. Honor the Lord with thy substance and with thy first fruits of all thine increase. So thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine. Solomon tells us to honor God with our substance, which means our wealth or resources. Specifically, he mentions first fruits. In an agricultural society, the first fruits were the very first crops harvested. Giving them to God was a risky act of faith. It means giving away the first part of your income before you knew if the rest of the harvest would come in. This principle applies to us today. Putting God first in our finances is not a manipulation tactic or a formula to get rich. It is an act of trust. It is an act of obedience. Giving the first fruits, putting God first before bills or entertainment, does something powerful to the human heart. It breaks the grip of greed. It breaks the fear of money. It declares that you trust God to take care of you more than you trust your bank account. And the result described, barns filled with plenty and wine presses bursting, speaks of God's blessing. When we honor God with what we have, He is able to multiply and bless what remains. It is the paradox of the kingdom. We gain more by holding on to things loosely. Finally, Solomon addresses one of the hardest paths of wisdom, being corrected. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth. So nobody likes to be told they're wrong. Correction feels uncomfortable. It can feel like a setback or even an attack, but Solomon reframes it completely. He tells us not to despise the chastening of the Lord. Why? Because correction is not punishment, it is guidance, it is protection. If a child is about to run into a busy street, a loving father will grab them and pull them back, perhaps even sternly. He doesn't do it because he hates the child, he does it because he loves the child and wants them to survive. Solomon explains that God only corrects those he loves. He corrects the humble. He corrects the teachable. If God is correcting you, whether through your conscience, through scripture, or through the consequences of a mistake, it is proof that you belong to Him. Wisdom cannot grow in someone who refuses correction. If you push away discipline, you are pushing away the very thing that is meant to keep you safe. We must learn to see correction as a sign of God's love and not His anger. So, to sum this all up, what am I trying to have you understand, right? These very few principles. First, we see that wisdom must live inside of you, in your heart, and not just in your memory. We see that wisdom produces safety, stability, and longevity. We see that wisdom affects how you treat people, demanding both mercy and truth. We see that wisdom teaches us to trust God's view over our own limited understanding. We see that wisdom trains our decisions and our direction in life. We see that wisdom shapes our relationship with money, breaking greed and building trust. And finally, wisdom shapes how we respond to correction, helping us accept guidance with humility. So, Proverbs chapter 3, from verses 1 to 12, shows that wisdom is not just knowledge. It transforms your character, your choices, your relationships, your money, your decisions, and how you respond to God. Wisdom works from the inside out. So, I hope that we were able to get some type of understanding from the first 12 verses. I thought that the first 12 verses would kind of keep it a little short, but come to find out, there's a lot of wisdom just in the very few verses that we are reading. So I hope that we were able to gain a better perspective. I hope we were able to gain some more insight for our own lives and how we can, start to apply the wisdom of God in our own lives and our own daily lives. Um, Before I end, I wanted to do this at the end. I just want to thank those people over the weekend that gave me some strength to continue moving forward. Um, the the idea was to just stop. Um, it didn't seem as if this was doing any good at all. But I asked God before the weekend started, like at least if one person is at least enjoying this, if one person is at least gaining something from this, I'll keep going, right? And you know how God likes to work, right? You ask him for one and he gives you an abundance. And instead of getting one, I got three people to tell me, keep going, basically. keep going, and not and just keep going. More. Let me not even say three people. It was more than three people. So everyone that spoke to me this weekend, thank you. Um, I understand that I have the majority of a community that absolutely hates me right now, but to the people that spoke to me, thank you. Um, I will keep going. Right at this particular point in time, I don't feel that zeal, I guess. This is all me doing this right now is just a commitment that I'm honoring to God at this particular point in time. Regardless of how I feel emotionally, regardless of how I feel at all, I understood that this is a devotion. This is a commitment to God. So again, thank you for the strength. Thank you for believing in me. And and thank you to God for answering that prayer. Thank you for giving me that confirmation to keep going. Um to not let the hatred that you're experiencing, to not let the betrayal, to not let anything that is trying to trip you up from getting this done, don't let that stop you. So I'll continue 365 days of this to continue this. So until next time, everyone, I ask that you stay grounded. I ask that you stay humbled. I ask that you keep the strength. These devotions are not just for, me preaching to everybody else, me teaching everybody else. These devotions are for me too. So when I say until next time, stay grounded, stay humbled, I'm speaking to myself as well, right? So until next time, everyone, stay grounded, stay humbled. Um, Remember that God is always with you. And above all, stay aligned with just the word. Thank you.